My name is Liam Carter, 36 years old, a criminal defense attorney who's built a reputation for exposing lies in the courtroom. But the one lie I never saw coming? The one in my own damn home. I married Sophia Carter, née Bennett, when we were both 27. She was the kind of woman who could walk into a room and own it, gorgeous, sharp-witted, and with an ambition that matched mine. She worked as a real estate agent, selling million-dollar homes to rich clients while I battled in courtrooms. Together, we were a power couple, or so I thought. We had a 7-year-old son, Ethan, the light of my life. Everything I did, every case I won, every late night I pulled, was to give him the best life possible. But behind the picture-perfect Christmas cards and family vacations, my wife was living a double life. And how did I find out? Because of a dumb mistake. The moment it all came crashing down. It happened on a Thursday night. I was supposed to be out of town for a case, a high-profile one that kept me in court 4 hours. Sophia had told me she'd be working late too, closing a big deal with a client. But that night, while I was going through files in my hotel room, I realized I had left my work laptop at home. I called Sophia, but she didn't answer. No big deal, I figured she was busy. But then, Ethan called me. "Daddy, where are you? Mommy said you weren't coming home," but I heard her talking to someone. She said she was gonna do something fun tonight. A pit formed in my stomach. Who the hell was she talking to? I told Ethan to go to bed, then grabbed my car keys and drove 2 hours back home. When I pulled into the driveway, the house was pitch black except for the glow of candlelight flickering through the curtains of our bedroom. Our bedroom. My heart pounded as I stepped inside, the unmistakable sound of moaning and laughter echoing through the halls. I walked toward the bedroom door and pushed it open, and there she was, Sophia, tangled up in bed with a man I instantly recognized. Nathan Pierce, 39. My best friend. The explosion, the rage that surged through me was unlike anything I had ever felt. I wasn't just betrayed, I was humiliated. This was the guy who had been my best man at my wedding. The guy who came over 4 beers, who played with my son, who pretended to be my brother, and now, he was screwing my wife in my own bed. Sophia gasped, her face draining of color as she scrambled to pull the sheets over herself. "Nathan?" The bastard just smirked. "Liam, what are you doing here?" she stammered. "Oh, don't stop on my account. Looked like you were having a great time." "Listen, man," Nathan started, sitting up. "It's not what it looks like." I laughed, a cold, bitter laugh. "Really? Because it looks exactly like my wife is getting railed by my so-called best friend." Sophia jumped out of bed, throwing on a robe. "Liam, please." "Shut up," I snapped, my voice like ice. "How long?" Her lips trembled. It was just a mistake." "How long?" Nathan sighed, running a hand through his hair. 2 years, man. 2 years. The breaking point. I don't remember what happened next, only that I lunged at him. My fists connected with his jaw, knocking him off the bed. He hit the floor with a sickening thud. Sophia screamed, trying to pull me off him, but I shoved her away. "You've been screwing my wife under my nose for 2 years, and you have the balls to smirk at me," I snarled. Nathan wiped the blood from his mouth. "It just happened, man. You weren't giving her what she needed. That was it." I grabbed the baseball bat from the corner of the room and swung. He barely dodged it, scrambling toward the door, half naked and bleeding. "You better run, you son of a bitch." Nathan bolted out of the house like a coward, leaving Sophia standing there, sobbing. But I wasn't done yet. I turned to her, my voice eerily calm. "Pack your bags. You're out." "Liam, please. We can talk." "There's nothing to talk about, Sophia. You made your choice, and now, I'm making mine." I grabbed my phone and called my lawyer. "File for divorce. Effective immediately." She collapsed to her knees, wailing. But I didn't care. I walked out of the room, grabbed Ethan from his bed, and carried him to the car. "Daddy, what's wrong?" he asked sleepily. I kissed his forehead. "Nothing, buddy. We're just going on an adventure." That was the night everything changed. And Sophia? She thought she could take everything from me. She had no idea what was coming. Sophia didn't take my demand for a divorce well. I expected tears, begging, maybe even threats. But what I didn't expect, for her to go full psychopath mode. The morning after I threw her out, I woke up to dozens of missed calls and texts. "Sophia, Liam, please. Let's talk. I made a mistake." "Sophia, you're overreacting. It wasn't that serious." "Sophia, if you take Ethan from me, I swear to God." "Sophia, I will ruin you." There it was. That last message told me exactly what I needed to know. Sophia wasn't sorry about cheating. She wasn't heartbroken about losing me. She was pissed because she lost control. And Nathan? The bastard went radio silent. No calls, no texts, like he vanished into thin air. Coward. But here's the real kicker. Sophia didn't just accept the divorce. She decided to take me to court. The court papers that made my blood boil. I was sipping my morning coffee, barely processing the chaos of the last 24 hours, when I heard a knock at the door. A process server. Liam Carter, he asked, holding a thick envelope. Yeah. You've been served. I tore open the documents and my blood pressure skyrocketed. Sophia was suing me for full custody of Ethan. Let me repeat that, full custody. No visitation. No shared parenting. She wanted to cut me out of my son's life completely. And the reason? She claimed I was an unstable, violent man who was unfit to raise a child. I nearly threw my coffee mug at the wall. Unstable? Violent? The only reason I even touched Nathan was because he was in my bed with my wife. I called my lawyer, David Lawson, 41, one of the sharpest legal minds I knew. A shark in the courtroom. David, she's going for full custody. Of course she is, he sighed. She's got no leverage in the divorce, so she's playing dirty. She's claiming I'm unstable. David scoffed. Please, you're one of the most respected attorneys in the state, but we'll need hard proof to destroy her case. I exhaled slowly. My mind was already racing with strategy. If Sophia wanted a fight, she was going to get one. But then, the twist I never saw coming happened. The DNA test that changed everything. It started with an offhand comment from my mother. Liam, honey, have you ever noticed how Ethan doesn't really look like you? I froze. What are you talking about? I mean, he has Sophia's eyes and nose, but he doesn't have your features. Not your jawline, not your build, nothing. I laughed it off at first. Ethan was my son. I had been there when he was born. I had no doubts. But the thought wormed into my brain like a virus. 2 years. Nathan and Sophia had been sleeping together for 2 years. Ethan was 7. My stomach twisted. No way. But then I thought about it logically. If there was even a 1% chance that I had been raising another man's child unknowingly, I had to find out. So I did the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. I took Ethan to a private lab for a paternity test. The results that shattered me. I barely slept the night before getting the results. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the envelope like it was a ticking bomb. David sat across from me, his expression unreadable. Liam, whatever's in there, we deal with it. You understand? I swallowed hard and tore open the envelope. Probability of paternity 0.00%. I wasn't Ethan's father. My vision blurred. The room spun. My hands trembled as I read the words again and again, as if they would somehow change. David let out a slow breath. Jesus Christ. I felt physically ill. 7 years. 7 years. I had fed him, held him when he cried, taught him how to ride a bike, read him bedtime stories, and he wasn't mine. And Sophia had known. The rage that filled me was different this time. It wasn't just about betrayal. It wasn't even about my marriage. It was about stealing 7 years of my life. The breaking point. I stormed into Sophia's new apartment. She had no idea I knew. She opened the door with a smug smirk. Ah, Liam. Ready to grovel? I shoved the DNA results into her chest. Read it. She frowned, flipping through the pages. Her face went pale. Liam, shut up. You knew, didn't you? She swallowed hard, didn't answer. That was enough. You let me believe he was mine. You let me raise him, love him, for 7 years. Tears welled up in her eyes. I thought you'd be a better father than Nathan. Better father? I let out a cold laugh. Oh, you have no idea what you just did. You tried to take my son away, but guess what, Sophia? He was never my son to begin with. She reached for me, but I stepped back. You want a war? You've got one. And when I'm done, you'll have nothing. I turned and walked out, already formulating my revenge. She thought she could cheat me, betray me, and steal my son. She had no idea what was coming. When I walked out of Sophia's apartment that day, I wasn't the same man who had walked in. Before, I was just a husband dealing with a cheating wife. Now, I was a man with a purpose. A man fueled by 7 years of betrayal. My wife, no, my ex-wife, had stolen my life. She had let me believe Ethan was mine, let me pour my love, my time, my everything into that boy. And then she had the nerve to take me to court for full custody. This wasn't just about divorce anymore. This was about making sure she paid for every single thing she did. So, I sat down with my lawyer, David Lawson, a man whose specialty was making people like Sophia regret their choices. David, I don't want to just win this case, I want to burn her to the ground. David leaned back in his chair, a slow grin forming. Then let's get to work. Step 1: find the skeletons in her closet. David's first move: dig up everything. We started with Nathan. Where was he now? Why had he gone silent? Why wasn't he fighting for Ethan if he was the real father? Well, turns out Nathan had his own dirty secrets. David hired a private investigator, Mike Calloway, 39, ex-police, now a bloodhound for legal cases. 2 weeks later, Mike sat across from me in my office, his expression smug as he tossed a thick folder onto my desk. Read it and enjoy, Liam. I flipped through the documents, and my jaw dropped. Nathan had a history of fraud, tax evasion, embezzlement, and the best part, he was under federal investigation. Oh, but it gets better. Nathan had also been paying off a family court judge in past custody battles. Translation: if Sophia was tied to him, she was screwed in court. I grinned. Mike, you just made my day. I'm not done yet, he said, pulling out another file. I looked into Sophia too, and what he found made my blood turn to ice. Step 2: expose Sophia for the monster she is. Remember how Sophia was always out on girls' trips during our marriage? Yeah, turns out those weren't just trips. David spread out hotel receipts, flight tickets, and bank transfers, all proving that Sophia had multiple affairs. Nathan wasn't the only one. There were 3 other men. 3, and one of them was married with kids. I clenched my fists so tight my knuckles went white. This woman is a walking scandal, David muttered. If we play this right, we won't just win the divorce, we'll make sure she walks away with nothing. But I wasn't done yet. No, this was personal. Step 3: flip the custody case on its head. Sophia wanted full custody. Time to remind her that Ethan was never mine to begin with. David drafted a motion requesting a paternity fraud lawsuit. If granted, Sophia would be forced to pay back every single cent I had ever spent on Ethan, hospital bills, school fees, everything. It also meant she had no case for child support. If Ethan wasn't mine, I had no legal obligation to pay, which meant she was about to lose the free ride she thought she had secured. Step 4: the courtroom bombshell. We had everything lined up. Nathan's crimes, Sophia's affairs, the DNA results, but I wanted one final move. So, I reached out to the one person who could destroy Sophia's case in front of a judge, Ethan's real father. I found Nathan hiding in a cheap apartment 2 states away. The second he saw me at his door, he turned pale. Liam, Shut up, I snapped. You're going to do exactly what I say. He swallowed hard. Or what? I smirked and dropped a flash drive in his palm. That's everything we have on you, Nathan. Fraud, bribery, everything. You can either show up in court and admit Ethan is yours, or I can send this to the feds. Your choice. His face drained of color. I didn't even have to say another word. He knew I had him. Checkmate. The final stage: setting the trap. With Nathan forced to testify, Sophia's lies were about to blow up in her face. David looked over our case, nodding in approval. This is brutal. She won't just lose, she'll be humiliated. Good, I said coldly, because tomorrow was the court hearing, and Sophia had no idea what was coming. I walked into the courthouse dressed in a sharp navy blue suit, looking every bit the composed, confident man I wanted to project. Because today wasn't just about winning. Today was about making Sophia regret ever thinking she could walk all over me. She was already seated at the plaintiff's table, smug as hell, her lawyer, some overpriced fraud named Michael Grayson, 45, looking equally arrogant. Sophia's gaze met mine, and she smirked. That smirk. The same one she had when she told me Ethan wasn't mine. The same one she had when she slapped me with the custody papers, thinking she had me backed into a corner. She had no idea. I was about to drop a nuclear bomb on her life. The battle begins. The judge, a nonsense woman in her 50s, Judge Rebecca Collins, sat down and called the court to order. Sophia's lawyer stood up first. Your Honor, my client has been the primary caretaker of Ethan since birth. She has provided a stable home, love, and guidance, whereas Mr. Callahan has demonstrated emotional instability due to the recent revelations of paternity fraud. We believe that full custody should be granted to my client, with limited visitation rights to Mr. Callahan, should he choose to remain in Ethan's life. Limited visitation? To a kid that isn't even mine? I could already feel the suppressed laughter from my lawyer, David. Let them talk, he had told me before the hearing. The higher they climb, the harder the fall. Sophia sat there, chin high, looking like she had already won. She had no idea that she was standing on a trapdoor. David stood up, buttoning his suit. Your Honor, before we discuss custody, I would like to present an urgent motion to the court. Judge Collins frowned. What motion, Mr. Lawson? David walked to the bench, handing the judge a thick envelope. A motion for a paternity fraud claim. Boom. Sophia's smirk wiped off her face so fast it was almost comical. The truth unfolds. What is this? Sophia stammered, looking at her lawyer in panic. David turned to her with a slow, satisfied smile. This, Mrs. Callahan, is proof that you have committed paternity fraud for the past 6 years. The DNA test results confirm that Ethan is not my client's biological son, which means that not only does Mr. Callahan have no legal obligation to pay child support, but he also has grounds to sue you for damages. Dead silence. Sophia's face turned white. Her lawyer quickly stood up. Objection. This is irrelevant to the custody case. David chuckled. It's extremely relevant, Your Honor, because my client is being asked to fight for custody of a child that, legally, he has no obligation to claim. Judge Collins turned to Sophia. Mrs. Callahan, is this true? Sophia was shaking now, her eyes darting around the room like a trapped animal. I leaned back, watching her crumble. She thought she was untouchable. She was wrong. The nail in the coffin. Judge Collins sighed. I'll need to review this, but if these claims are true, we will need to reconsider the basis of this custody case. But I wasn't done yet. I wanted her destroyed. David walked back to the table, but before he sat down, he turned to the judge again. Your Honor, there's more. Sophia's breath hitched. We would like to call a surprise witness. Granted. The doors at the back of the courtroom opened, and in walked Nathan. Sophia actually gasped. I could see her lips forming silent words. No. No, no, no. Game over, sweetheart. Nathan looked like he wanted to disappear, but he walked up to the witness stand, not even glancing at Sophia. David approached him. State your name for the court. Nathan Peterson, he muttered. And what is your relationship to Mrs. Callahan? Nathan exhaled sharply. I was in a relationship with her during the time she was married to Liam Callahan. The courtroom murmured. David nodded. And, Mr. Peterson, can you confirm for the court, are you the biological father of Ethan Callahan? Silence. Nathan swallowed hard. Yes, I am. Sophia collapsed in her chair. The judge's face hardened. Mrs. Callahan, is this true? Sophia was visibly shaking now. She couldn't even form a sentence. David turned to the judge. Your Honor, given this new evidence, my client moves to dismiss this case entirely. Mr. Callahan is under no legal obligation to continue these proceedings. Judge Collins nodded slowly. I'll need to deliberate on this, but things are not looking good for Mrs. Callahan. Translation? She lost. The final blow. Just when Sophia thought things couldn't get worse, David smiled. One more thing, Your Honor. Sophia actually whimpered. David dropped another file onto the judge's desk. This is evidence proving that Mrs. Callahan had multiple extramarital affairs, one of which was with a married man. If the court finds her guilty of adultery, we will also be filing a defamation suit against her for the emotional and financial damages done to my client. Sophia's eyes rolled back, and she fainted. Yes, she actually passed out in court. Her lawyer frantically tried to wake her up. Meanwhile, I just sat there, watching the destruction unfold, my hands folded neatly in my lap. I had won. She had lost, and it was far from over. The moment Sophia collapsed, chaos erupted. Her lawyer, Michael Grayson, was shaking her, whispering in her ear. A court officer rushed over with a bottle of water, trying to revive her, but I just sat there, arms crossed, expression blank. She wanted war. She got obliteration. Judge Collins tapped her gavel 3 times. Order. We will take a short recess. The courtroom emptied, but I stayed seated, watching as Sophia finally woke up, dazed, confused, and absolutely wrecked. Liam, please. She whispered. I raised an eyebrow. Please, what? I didn't know Nathan was going to stop. Asterisk asterisk. My voice was calm. Cold. Asterisk asterisk. You tried to destroy me. You tried to take my money, my house, my son, who isn't even mine. You embarrassed me, dragged me through the mud, and now you want to talk? Her lips trembled. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I smirked. Well, it did. And now, I'm going to make sure you never recover. She opened her mouth to speak, but I stood up and walked away. I had bigger things to do. The court's final decision. After the recess, we reconvened. Judge Collins took her seat and sighed. Mrs. Callahan, after reviewing the DNA evidence, the witness testimony, and the fraudulent claims you made regarding Mr. Callahan's financial responsibility toward Ethan Callahan, I have come to a decision. Sophia looked like she wanted to run. Mr. Callahan is no longer obligated to pay child support or provide for Ethan in any legal capacity. Additionally, the court finds your claims of custody invalid, as you knowingly misrepresented the paternity of the child. My lawyer smirked. The judge wasn't done. Furthermore, I am ordering you to reimburse Mr. Callahan for all child support payments made since Ethan's birth, as well as legal fees. Mr. Callahan may also proceed with his defamation and emotional distress lawsuit against you. Sophia's mouth dropped open. No, that's not fair. He raised Ethan like his own. Judge Collins slammed the gavel. You committed fraud, Mrs. Callahan. Consider yourself lucky I'm not recommending criminal charges. Sophia burst into tears. But I wasn't done yet. Burning it all down. Outside the courthouse, a swarm of reporters was already waiting. And I had plans. As soon as I stepped out, they pounced. Mr. Callahan, what do you have to say about today's ruling? I smiled, looking directly at the cameras. Justice was served. And to any man out there who's been lied to about his child, get a DNA test. You might be raising another man's kid. I saw Sophia freeze behind me. Her face turned the color of a corpse. And then, the final dagger. David, my lawyer, handed me a document. I held it up for the cameras. This is my lawsuit against Mrs. Callahan for defamation and emotional distress. She ruined my life, and now it's time she faces consequences. Reporters shouted questions. Sophia looked like she was about to faint again. And then came the death blow. A woman stepped forward from the crowd, Nathan's wife. Alicia Peterson, 32. She marched up to Sophia, rage burning in her eyes. You destroyed my marriage, Alicia hissed. I hope you lose everything. Then, in front of dozens of cameras, Alicia slapped Sophia across the face. Smack. Gasps filled the air. Sophia staggered back, holding her cheek, eyes wide with humiliation. And I just stood there, watching her burn. Her life falls apart. Within a week, Sophia's life collapsed. She was slapped with a $500,000 lawsuit. She lost custody of Ethan. Nathan refused to take him in. She was evicted from our old house because I legally owned it. The paternity fraud scandal spread like wildfire. People at her workplace found out. She lost her job. Her family disowned her. And Nathan? He vanished, blocked her number, sold his apartment, and moved away. She had nothing left. And that's when I got the final call. A tearful, desperate voicemail from Sophia. Liam, I have nothing left. Please. I know I was wrong. I know I hurt you. But I need help. I need you. We were married for 10 years, doesn't that mean something? Can we talk? I sat there, listening to her sobs. Then I did the only thing left to do. I deleted the voicemail, and blocked her number. Moving on and thriving. Months passed. I moved to a new city, started fresh, opened my own business, something I'd always wanted to do. I met someone new, a woman who respected me. And Sophia? Well, last I heard, she was living in a tiny apartment, working minimum wage, still drowning in lawsuits. But that wasn't my problem anymore. She thought she could destroy me. She thought she could walk all over me. She was wrong, and I had no regrets. Not a single one.